So let's think about the creative process and two words here that use the exact same letters but produce very different outcomes. You've got creative and you've got reactive. And I came up with a method called the PEPA method, which is based on the letters of my name, which is choosing creativity versus reactivity. Curating is choosing. Curation is a creative and intentional way of choosing, and you are the artist of your life. By choosing like an artist, you make the decision from creativity rather than reactivity. So creative and reactive, look at those words, look at the letters. These words use the exact same letters, but they produce completely different outcomes. Which one are you choosing? Do you want to be creative, coming from a place of originality, of authenticity, or do you want to be reactive, which is responding to something that's happening to you rather than choosing how to create it? Most people are unconsciously operating from reactivity. They're triggered, they're activated, and they're on autopilot. They're trapped in familiar patterns and external expectations that may be inherited from family, society, trauma, or culture. They're reacting to something that is outside of them that's being projected onto them. You don't have to be reactive. You always have a choice. And that choice is the shift from reacting to creating. And you are the artist of your life. And this is the foundation of curating a life that is a work of art. You choose like an artist. So let's think about reactive versus creative. These words use the exact same letters, but they produce completely different outcomes. And the choice to do so, again, there's that word, choice, is yours. You're not a machine operating on autopilot. You're a human being. You're the artist of your life, and you're here to create, to curate, and to choose. So you are the artist of your life. In every moment, especially the difficult ones, you can choose to step out of reactivity and step into creativity. So let's have a look at this. Your default setting, which is probably very reactive, versus your creative reality, which is curated, which is your choice. So if you're reactive and you're defaulting, you're probably triggered by what's going on around you. Whereas if you're creative or curated, you're grounded. You're not reacting to what's happening. You're grounded in the present. When you're reactive, you're probably doing something that's habitual. But when you're creative, you're doing something that's intentional. Look at these shifts. You go from triggered to grounded. You go from habitual to intentional. You go from patterned, which is something that you probably learned or inherited, and you're just repeating it on autopilot, which is very reactive, or you become present. You become present in the moment. You go from repeating a pattern to being present to right now. Reactive behavior is usually very emotionally chaotic. But if you're in a creative space and you're choosing, you will be emotionally intelligent. Think about that. You go from chaos to intelligence. Reactive behaviors are usually on autopilot. But when you are creating, you're in awareness. When you're reactive, you are consumed by external energy, which means you are reacting to what's going on outside of you. But when you're creative and choosing from that place, you are centered in your own energy. You are not swayed by external factors. Reactive behavior is also very repetitive. It's something that you just do on autopilot, not consciously thinking about it. But when you're creating, you are reimagining what is possible. So take a moment to look at this table right here and look at the reactive and look at the creative. And think about the way you want to live your life as the artist of your life. Do you want to be triggered or do you want to be grounded? Do you want to be habitual or do you want to be intentional? Do you want to be patterned or do you want to be present? Emotionally chaotic or emotionally intelligent? Do you want to operate from autopilot or do you want to operate from awareness? Do you want to be consumed by the external or do you want to be centered in your own reality, your own energy? Do you want to repeat or do you want to reimagine? Take a moment to look at this list. You might want to write it down. As I said, you work through this at your own pace. If you want to stop at any time, do it. If you want to repeat at any time, do it. You want to go all the way to the end in one go, do it. This is your practice and your experience. So let's talk about the PEPA method. So using the letters of my name, I created this method as a step-by-step guide to help you choose like an artist from a place of creativity rather than reactivity. And so the word PEPA uses PEPA. So that is pause, emotion, present, and act with awareness. PEPA. The PEPA method. It's something I created from my lived experience of curating my own life to be a work of art. It's an ongoing, moment-to-moment practice. It's the core of my own guidance practice and something I use whenever I feel misaligned, overwhelmed, or if I might be curating my reality from a reactive rather than creative state. And I want to stress, like, this is a practice. This is ongoing. You don't just do this once and like, woohoo, that's it. This is an ongoing practice that you are going to commit to for the rest of your life. This is something you need to be conscious of, something you need to be aware of, and something that you need to curate into your life when you choose to choose like an artist. It's a reminder that creativity is an embodied way of being, and that living creatively and authentically is about intentional choosing over and over again. This is what it means to choose like an artist. You create, you don't react. So the first P is pause. In that moment where you're about to react, where you're triggered, something's bothering you, you're about to lose it, pause. Interrupt the reaction. Catch yourself in that moment right before you're about to default to reactivity and just pause. Instead of reactivity, choose creativity. And that's that conscious moment. Okay, I'm going to react. No, I'm going to create. Reactivity is usually showing up when you're triggered, when you're defaulting to a familiar habit, when you're repeating a pattern, when you're emotionally chaotic, when you're operating on autopilot, or when you're consumed by external energy. Remember that table that we had a few pages back? If you want to go back and refer to it, that is reactive behavior. And that is what you want to pause and prevent and choose creativity instead. That's what the first P is all about. Then we go to the E, which is your emotion. Identify what you are feeling. So after pausing, identify the emotion you're feeling that made you want to react rather than create in the first place. Remember that emotions are transitory, and unconsciously reacting to the negative ones is not a good way to make decisions. This list may help you identify the emotion that you are feeling. And again, you might want to jot this down and come back to this as often as you need to. Here's a list of some emotions that you may be feeling. You may be feeling angry. You may be feeling fear. You may be feeling sadness. You may be feeling disgust, surprise, or joy. So when you're about to react, pause and identify your emotion from the list right here. Then we move on to the next letter P, which is for present. Be grounded in the here and now. After you've paused and identified the emotion without reacting to it, it's time to be present with it. You don't need to intellectualize it, just consciously feel it in your body, because that's what emotions are. They're not intellectual, they are feelings that pass. Stay with it, even if it's uncomfortable. One of the simplest ways to ground yourself into the present moment is through your breath. Take a deep breath in with an exhale that's longer than your inhale. So feel that emotion in the present moment. Breathe, exhale. Okay, I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling disgusted. And don't react to it, just be present with it. You're not avoiding that emotion by trying to fix it. You're simply breathing, feeling, and allowing. So pause, identify your emotion, and be present with it. And then act with awareness. That is your creative choice. It's not a default reaction. Now that you've paused, name the emotion, stay present with it, and you're in a grounded place to check in with yourself and ask, what's next? What's the most aligned next step? Take action with awareness. Creativity over reactivity. Choose like an artist. Make an intentional, creative choice that's going to support you in curating a life that is a work of art. So, creativity isn't just something that you do, it's who you are and how you live. It's your embodied way of being. So, think about your state. Are you like in reactive or default, or you're in creative or curated? Your energy, if you're reactive, it's going to be defensive, chaotic, and fear-based. But if you're creative and curated, it's going to be grounded, intentional, and calm. And I invite you to go through this list and have a think about what state you're in, your energy, your action, your outcome, your nervous system, and look at the examples here when you're in reactive. Look at the examples when you're in creative and choose, how do I want to be? How do I want to curate my life? How do I want to curate my life so that it is a work of art and I'm making choices like an artist? You want to choose consciously and intentionally and with awareness from the list of creative options rather than reactive options. So this method is for anyone who wants to stop living on autopilot, get out of reactive loops, build emotional resilience, reconnect with your creative power, and make conscious choices that are aligned with your values as the artist of your life. These are especially powerful if you are navigating a creative block, if you're recovering from burnout, if you're reactive in your relationships, if you need to work on your inner child, or you're working through a big identity shift. Come back to this method as often as you need to. So the reactive versus the creative. Like any meaningful shift, becoming less reactive and more creative will take ongoing practice. You're seeing how much I'm referring to this word practice right now. This is not a one and done. Nothing in life is a one and done, unfortunately. If you want to make real meaningful shifts in your life, start choosing like an artist and curate your life into a work of art, then you have to practice doing it. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be fit and strong for the rest of your life. You need to commit to that practice, right? In the same way, the practice of shifting from a reactive state into a creative state is like a muscle that you're building. It happens slowly, but if you commit to the practice and you're consistent with it, eventually it will become who you are, and who you are is the artist of your life. And let's come back to this table. You start with the intention. You commit to it, you consistently practice it, then it becomes your embodied way of being, and then it's simply who you are, the artist of your life. You might forget and you might react. Hey, you're only human. We're all humans here. You might lose your shit in the chaos of the moment. That's totally fine. It's part of being human, and that's also part of this work and this ongoing practice. The key is to keep coming back to the PEPA method. Pause, identify the emotion, be present with it, and then act with awareness. Choose like an artist. Use it whenever you feel disconnected, triggered, overwhelmed, or unsure. The more you practice choosing your response, the more your entire life becomes an act of conscious creation, and you are curating a life that is a work of art. Choosing to live creatively, choosing like an artist, and seeing yourself as the artist of your life is the foundation of this course. And that's what it means to curate a life that is a work of art. So return to this section whenever you need a reminder and revisit the creative versus reactive choice. It's going to pop up a lot more often than you think. So let's dive into the overview of what this course is all about. Creative wellness, which is the art of living well. Before diving deeper, I want to define a couple of key terms here because these are kind of buzzwords that are flying around right now, and I think it's important to define them. Wellness is the practice of actively making choices that support your well-being. It's the daily actions that lead to a thriving creative life. And who doesn't want a thriving creative life? Your well-being is the state of being well, mentally, physically, spiritually, and environmentally. In other words, wellness is the practice and well-being is the result. Creativity is a wellness practice. Creative well-being comes from alignment. We are aligning a clear mind, a regulated body, a connected soul, and a supportive environment. And these four pillars, the mind, the body, the soul, and the environment, are the foundation for all of this. When one is out of sync, everything feels off. But when they're in harmony, your well-being will follow. So as you move through this course, remember the truth. You are the artist of your life. Life is art, and art